Why smart people never get angry is not because they are emotionless, passive, or somehow above human reactions, but because they understand something most people never learn about the brain, which is that anger is not intelligence. It is a biological reflex that once helped humans survive, but now quietly sabotages modern life. And the moment you understand how this reflex works, anger loses its grip. Because your brain is constantly scanning for threats even when no real danger exists. So when someone cuts you off in traffic, ignores your message, interrupts you, criticizes you, or disrespects you slightly, your nervous system reacts as if your survival is at stake. Your heart rate spikes, your muscles tighten, your jaw clenches, and your mind instantly starts building stories to justify why you should feel angry. Yet psychology shows that this reaction has very little to do with what actually happened, and almost everything to do with an outdated alarm system in your brain called the amygdala, a structure designed tens of thousands of years ago when social rejection meant exile and exile meant death. So your ancestors needed to react strongly to perceived threats to status, belonging, and respect. But the modern brain cannot tell the difference between real danger and symbolic discomfort, which means your body releases cortisol and adrenaline over a rude email the same way it would over physical danger, weakening your immune system, disrupting digestion, narrowing attention, and shutting down rational thinking. And this is where smart people separate themselves from everyone else, because they understand that the first emotional spike is automatic and unavoidable, but everything that happens after is optional. Neuroscience shows that emotions are chemical events that peak and fade naturally within about 90 seconds if they are not fed with thought. Yet most people unknowingly keep anger alive by replaying the event, imagining confrontations, rewriting conversations, and assigning intent, stretching 90 seconds into 90 minutes, 90 days, or even a lifetime. While smart people experience the same initial surge but do not attach a story to it, they feel the anger, acknowledge it, and let it pass without identifying with it, which is not suppression but regulation, because suppression ignores emotion while regulation observes it without surrendering control. And this single difference explains why some people seem naturally calm while others explode over minor inconveniences. Another critical reason smart people rarely get angry is that they do not fall into what psychology calls personalization bias, the tendency to assume that other people's behavior is about you, when in reality most people are consumed by their own fears, stress, insecurities, and mental noise. So the person who didn't reply might be overwhelmed, distracted, or emotionally exhausted, not rejecting you. The coworker who snapped might be carrying pressure you never see, not targeting you. Yet the brain loves to create narratives because narratives give emotion a sense of meaning, and anger thrives on meaning. But smart people interrupt this process by questioning assumptions before emotions harden into identity. They ask themselves what evidence actually exists, what alternative explanations are possible, and whether the emotional reaction matches the reality of the situation. And when assumptions dissolve, anger loses its justification, because anger is rarely about facts, it is about interpretation. Smart people also understand something deeply uncomfortable but profoundly freeing, which is that reacting emotionally gives power away. Every time you rage, argue, obsess, or seek validation through confrontation, you are handing control of your internal state to someone else, allowing external behavior to dictate your mood, focus, and energy. And psychology refers to this as emotional outsourcing, when your peace depends on other people behaving correctly. And emotionally intelligent people refuse to live that way. They recognize that attention is a finite resource, emotional energy is limited, and not everything deserves access. Not every insult requires a response. Not every inconvenience needs commentary. Not every provocation is an invitation. And this selective engagement creates the illusion of emotional invulnerability. But in reality, it is disciplined prioritization, because when you stop reacting to everything, you reclaim time, clarity, and mental bandwidth. And this is why calm people often seem powerful, not because they dominate others, but because they dominate themselves. There is also a paradox most people misunderstand. Anger feels powerful in the moment, but it is actually a loss of control. While calmness feels passive but is real authority, Research consistently shows that people who regulate emotions effectively are perceived as more competent, more trustworthy, and more confident because they are not predictable or reactive. They respond intentionally rather than impulsively, which signals stability, and stability signals strength. This is why manipulative or toxic individuals often target reactive people because reactions provide leverage, but lose interest in calm people because there is nothing to hook into. Drama feeds on engagement, and when engagement disappears, drama starves. Smart people also train their nervous system intentionally. Even if they never call it training, they practice restraint in small moments, letting someone interrupt without escalating, resisting the urge to reply to provocative comments, sitting with discomfort without immediately discharging it. And each time they do this, they strengthen the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reasoning, perspective, and impulse control, while weakening the amygdala's dominance. And over time, this rewiring makes calmness easier and anger rarer, not because emotions disappear, but because awareness arrives earlier, giving choice room to operate. And this is how emotional mastery is built, not through motivational slogans, but through repeated behavioral restraint. Smart people also understand that anger often disguises vulnerability. Beneath most anger is fear, insecurity, embarrassment, or wounded pride. And reacting angrily is often an attempt to regain a sense of control or dignity. Yet psychologically, this strategy backfires because external explosions do not resolve internal discomfort. They amplify it, while calm reflection restores agency, which is why emotionally intelligent people do not rush to defend ego. They let it be challenged without panic, knowing that self-worth does not require constant reinforcement through reaction. Another powerful concept smart people internalize is drawn from Stoic psychology, the idea that you cannot control external events, but you can control your interpretation and response. And once this distinction is fully understood, anger becomes unnecessary because you stop expecting reality to behave according to your preferences. You stop demanding fairness from people who are incapable of providing it, and you stop attaching peace to outcomes you cannot govern. And this acceptance does not mean approval, it means clarity, because clarity removes friction between expectation and reality, which is where anger lives. Over time, smart people adopt a simple internal filter before reacting, asking whether this moment will matter in a week, a year, or a decade. And if the answer is no, they refuse to spend emotional currency on it. And this practice alone eliminates most unnecessary anger, because perspective shrinks emotional intensity, and emotional intensity shrinks when ego steps aside. Eventually, a shift occurs that changes everything. You realize that calm is not something you perform for others, it is something you protect for yourself. Your peace becomes non-negotiable, your reactions become intentional, and your emotional world stops being a public space anyone can enter. And this is why people often describe calm individuals as hard to read or emotionally distant, when in reality they are simply boundaried. They feel everything, but they do not broadcast everything. They experience emotion without being controlled by it. And that is the difference between reactivity and mastery. So the truth behind why smart people never get angry is not that they never feel anger, but that they refuse to let a momentary chemical reaction dictate their identity, their behavior, or their future. They understand that anger is information, not instruction, not a command. And once you learn to listen without obeying, anger loses its authority, leaving behind clarity, confidence, and self-respect. And if you value psychology that explains real human behavior without exaggeration, fake motivation, or empty slogans, subscribe to the Known Sense and turn on notifications, because understanding your mind is the most powerful form of control you will ever have.